Hello students, welcome for this session. In this session we will be looking at scientific method. We'll be looking at scientific method, and in this chapter we will be dealing with many things. In the first section here of chapter 2, which is measurements and calculations, we will be looking at the main ideas, which include observations, includes making measurements and collecting data. Then we will have hypotheses or tested statements. Then we will look at modeling ideas helps to form theories. Modeling ideas helps to form theories. The first part here is observation, includes making measurements and collecting data. So think about it. Think about a scientific method. So sometimes progress in science comes about through accidental discoveries. Sometimes progress in science comes about through accidental discoveries. But most scientific advances, however, results from carefully planned investigations. Most scientific advances however result from carefully planned investigations. So many advances that we know are as a result of careful investigations, be they be basic research or applied research. Both of them will come in the form of carefully planned investigation. So the process researchers use to carry out their investigation is often called scientific method. So when we are looking at scientific method, it is basically the process. It is the process scientists. It is the process scientists or researchers use to carry out their investigations. So these processes the scientists use to carry out their investigations are what we are referring to as being, or is what we are referring to be a scientific method. The scientific method is a logical approach to solving problem. The scientific method is a logical process. The scientific approach or method is a logical is a logical approach to solving problems. So, if you have problems, then you have to think logically and bring out solutions. And you do this by use of scientific method. And you start by observing, by solving problems by observing. So you have to observe what you are doing and collecting data. Observing and collecting data. Formulating hypotheses. Formulating hypothesis. Formulating hypothesis. Testing hypothesis. Testing hypothesis. So you have to test this hypothesis. After you have come up with this hypothesis, then you have to test them. Then, after testing them through experimentations, then and formulating theories and formulating theories. So before you come up with a theory that is supported by data, that are supported by data, you have to have gone through what we are regarding to be a scientific method. So in scientific method, first you have to make observations, then collect data, then formulate hypotheses, test these hypotheses and formulate theories out of the results. And your theories, of course, will be having some backup data to prove that what you did was real work. So observing includes measurements and collecting data. We'll start with the first one, which is observing. Observing includes making measurements, and collecting data. So you have to collect data about what you are investigating, and that is step one. So observing is the use of the senses to obtain information. It is the use of the senses to obtain information. So here when I'm talking of senses, I am talking about the five senses: the sense of smell, the sense of sight, the sense of touch, and even the sense of the sense of sight. So observation often involves making measurements and collecting data. The data may be descriptive. So first, observation involves making measurements and collecting data, as we saw. So data may be descriptive. This data that is collected may be descriptive. data may be descriptive, just telling us what is happening, that is qualitative. That is qualitative. Or numerical, which is quantitative. Quantitative. So when we are looking at these two, that is quantitative and qualitative, what are we talking about? So when we are looking at qualitative, we are looking at things that are descriptive, things that you can describe, like color, like maybe taste, and order and such stuff. So here you may be looking at color, order, and such stuff. Here we look at volumes, we may look at area, we may look at length. So in this second case, we are looking at measurements, and in the first case, so numerical information such as the fact that a sample of copper or numerical information such as the fact that a copper ore that a sample of copper ore has a mass of 25.7 grams. This is just an example of qualitative analysis. This is just an example of qualitative analysis. Non-numerical information such as the fact that the sky is blue. Non-numerical information sorry for this, non-numerical information, non-numerical information such as the fact that the sky is blue, such as the fact that the sky is blue, is qualitative. So this is qualitative. As earlier stated, it involves color, order, and such stuff. So experimenting involves carrying out a procedure under controlled conditions to make observations and collect data. Experimenting involves carrying out a procedure carrying out a procedure under controlled conditions. Under controlled conditions. Under controlled conditions. To make observation and collect data. To make observation and collect data. So what are we talking about here? So for an experiment, it has to involve carrying out a procedure under controlled conditions to make observation and collect data. We are meaning here that as a scientist, before you carry out an experiment, first of all you have to come up with questions so that you create hypotheses, and from those hypotheses you will be able to create conditions which are controlled. So the conditions have to have control in them so that you will get the correct results. If you look at the picture here of these students, for example, you will see that what they are doing is what we are calling observation in experiment. So students here observe whether the volume of popped corn, they are observing whether the volume of popped corn, so volume of popped corn, whether the volume of popped corn is greater when the camels have been soaked. So here we have camels soaked, and we have camels unsoaked. Camels unsoaked. Camels unsoaked. So in these two, what do we expect here? This will be a control because it will not be soaked, and this will be the experimental group. This is what we will experiment on, and from the experiment we will draw conclusions as, for example, is it true that the volume will be higher if the popcorns were first put in water or soaked in water, or when they were dry? Then you can write that information and then make analysis, and you will be done with the experiment at that instant. So we'll stop here, and in the next video we will continue and look at a system, what our system is. We will be looking at what our system is and progress from there.